Hey guys, Tarke here, joined by his laundry, and today we are going to be reviewing traps in 3.13. Um, we know there's a full trap rework coming in 3.14 thanks to the latest beta class, because it was said on the official Path channel there's going to be a full trap rework, so obviously there's going to be a full trap rework. So I thought it'd be fun to look at the current state of traps, and then we can be like, wow, look how much they've changed. Probably not at all. So briefly, we'll just rank them. In terms of damage, Explosive Trap is by far miles away ahead of everything else. I would then say Fire Trap. I would then say Ice and Lightning Trap are kind of tied. People tend to think that Lightning Trap has the lowest damage of all the traps. There are a few things you can kind of do to push it. It has its advantages, but it is probably the one that you'll meet a wall with the soonest. But when you then start bringing stuff like Lightning Spire Trap, I think Lightning and Ice Trap are pretty even in that regard. Clear. Lightning Trap just has the best clear. There's no comparison. If you get enough Pierce rolling, your Lightning Trap just destroys every single league mechanic. It has by far the best clear and very good clear. Then it's kind of like everything else, and then Fire Trap kind of just pulls up the bottom a little bit, because the Fire Trap AoE is tiddly small, and, you know, Ice Trap has shatters, and Explosive Trap, when you get all the additional enchants and everything, it kind of just like goes actually pretty tasty. So let's now sort of compare different skill trees, different setups, and I'll just be kind of talking about like what setups I like the most, what setups I don't like the most. So the most standard setup you'll see when you look at trap builds, the main trap you'll see people playing is Explosive Trap because it has just the highest ceiling, and you'll generally see a tree which looks either kind of like this, or you'll see a tree which looks kind of like this. Every single sab should basically be set up to be done this way. Chain reaction just doesn't really compete. You can get enough trap trigger radius that you don't ever need chain reaction, and this just gives a whole bunch of damage. You just take Explosive Expert every time. I've taken to running all the frenzy charges and running charge traps on my main links. It's something that I used to resist doing because I didn't like having to invest into the frenzy charges, but honestly, just do it. The build feels better for it. You can also do some Thread of Hope shenanigans here, but we'll save that for other builds. Basically, you'll look at stuff which looks either kind of like this, or you'll look at a set which kind of looks like this. Every single build will have a random keystone in it, because at some point you use a timeless jewel. So if you're like, why is there a random keystone? It's because you'll use it for a timeless jewel. Okay, let's get into some of the wonkier Explosive Trap setups. This is an Explosive Trap setup that I haven't actually seen anyone do, and it's what I actually think is like stupidly sleeper OP. I keep saying that I'm going to play it and I just never get around to it. The idea is you do Raider trap stuff with all the onslaught scaling. You use the trap gloves, which give you trap throwing speed based on your cast speed. So this just gives you like a whole bunch of trap throwing speed, a whole bunch of avoidance, a whole bunch of movement speed, perma phasing, dodge, spell dodge, and then you get the damage from the exposure, which is actually pretty nice. Having the exposure uptime means you don't need to have a trigger exposure set up. Also means you can then go for hitless trap builds, which then means you can get 100% uptime on lab enchant boots. I think this is actually like a really good build, but yeah, I haven't seen anyone do it. What I have seen one person do though, which I think is really cool, it's another like sleeper Explosive Trap setup, is in Quiz. There's a few different ways you can do it. You either go for this setup with Inevitable Judgment, or you go Instruments of Virtue and you run Volcanus, which Volcanus with Battle Mage is super strong. I think Waggle played that last league. Really, really good. But basically go for one of these two setups. And the idea is you get, again, Timeless Jewel. You get a whole bunch of life regen, which gives you a whole bunch of ES regen. You then get really balanced life ES pools. You get loads of damage. Explosive Trap just does a bucket load of damage. There are some variations on how you want to do the tree. With all of these, you can shuffle like 5-10 points around. Some people will come up this way and grab stuff here. You can like Thread of Hope here to grab these. You can change your routing along here slightly. You can drop some points over here and drop the Thread of Hope and fill points in. You could drop this sort of package here. You could drop all the AoE investment. You could have some AoE investment, but that's like 8 points that you could then cut and then redistribute as you please. Some people like to go heavier on the life if they're playing in hardcore. Some people like to skimp on the life and go heavier on the damage. You get the idea. This is a build that I played recently. This is Matter agnostic. I've also seen a couple of just Mind Over Matter acro builds pop up. I know Ventura has been doing some practice with it. I know Octavian's been doing some practice with Lightning Trap Mind Over Matter acro. I've chosen not to speak about it in this video because I haven't played that version of the build in a really long time, and you can just ask them what they think of it. But apparently it's pretty good. I will say though that seems to be more focused to like a league start race scenario, and if you're planning on just like playing the build for a really long period of time, I don't know if that's how you would stay on the build. Does that make sense? There's quite a big difference between like what you would do in like a quick blitz, like 4 or 5 day event, compared to what you do over a 3-month league. But yeah, the basic idea here is you get as much mana as possible with as much life as possible within reason, and you have the agnostic just keeping you nice and healthy. It's pretty good. I like it. Some people who played this said that it felt super strong, but then they started to hit a bit of a wall in sort of like Awaken 8 kind of levels. And this is sort of the thing with these builds, is you need to try and like, it's kind of what I was saying with the race, is like you need to work out when you want to be strong, when you want to be weak. Do you want something which will just scale like infinitely, or do you want something which will be feeling strong with front-loaded strength, but then might start to taper off a bit? I definitely think you could play this and scale it all the way through. I've played a fair bit of it myself, and I've seen people scale it all the way through. Block. This is something that I played very recently in SSF with Ice Trap. It was kind of good and it was kind of bad. So it has actually a pretty good amount of defense once you get a life recovery shield rolling, and once you have your block nodes. But you actually end up with, you can see this is like a pretty high level tree. You can cut jewels and stuff early, but like you end up pretty locked in. And with these block packages can feel pretty rough until they fully come online. Like once you've got them online, once you've got all your setup, they feel great. But until you do, it feels trash. So, well, not trash, but like it doesn't feel god. Like you don't instantly be like, oh, I feel so much tankier. You shove acro phase acro on a build and you will just feel tanky. So yeah, I think the whole glancing blows, life recovery shield thing, I think it's still really strong, but it's dependent on having the shield crafted and having all the passes available to get the full block package. Low life. I haven't actually played a low life trapper in a very, very, very long time. There's a few variations on how you route it. Some people route through Scion. Some people route straight across. Some people cut a bunch of points to get clusters. I've also purposely not included clusters into any of these trees. One, because trappers don't tend to use clusters that much because there aren't that many great cluster setups for trappers. And two, because then you're just staring at like a million different builds. Nearly all of these builds will assume that you're doing a whole like berserk shenanigans, using either blood magic gloves or some other forms of tomfoolery. I would say one of the shortcomings of the low life stuff is if you want to do the whole low life setup, you could still use blood magic gloves for your trap costs, but then you're having to use those instead of a good pair of ES gloves if you want to do the whole like berserk thing. And the whole berserk thing with chain breaker is slightly okay. It's strong. Let's fill this in. Again, you go for the standard trap setup. If I was to rate these from like favorite to least favorite, this or this, whichever version you end up with, is kind of whatever. I prefer this version. Feels really good. Feels very consistent pretty much all the way through the game, I would say. Feels great early, feels great late. Doesn't feel like it ever sort of drops off. The pacing of the passives is very even. What I mean by that is you never have like an awkward long like stretch of, oh, I haven't gotten anything good. The like most awkward phase would be coming across from here to Scion Life, but you're actually getting a decent amount of stuff along the way. You're getting access to Profane Chemistry, and like even before that, 132 life. It's not that low. It's not that low. Because you know the stuff like the frenzies, the stuff like the jewels, that's all stuff that you get at way late game. you can get all your life filled in very comfortably by like level 80 or something. I like this version a lot. This, as I keep saying, it's like I really want to play. I really want to do this at some point. If I end up playing traps in 3.14, maybe this will be the one that I go for. I don't know. But I just think it has a lot of potential to it. The main thing which tends to put me off playing this stuff is this whole build is built around having the trapper gloves, and if you don't have them, then yeah, it's pointless. The mom agnostic, I liked this a lot. I think if I was going to be doing mind over matter trap stuff, I personally think I'd probably play the agnostic version over doing mom acro. That being said, I haven't tested the mom acro, and I know that Octavian's been really liking it, so maybe it's something that I need to play myself before I can really say, oh, I definitely prefer it over the mom agnostic version. But I really liked the mom agnostic version. I thought it was really good. I think what would draw me to the mind over matter acro phase acro route a lot more is if you had a cloak of defiance. I think if you've got a cloak of defiance, that suddenly makes your tree way more liberating, because you can just I can quickly throw it together. It would kind of look like this is the bit of the video where it randomly goes on for 5 times longer than expected. Yeah, like a lot of these builds, trappers are oddly not gear dependent but gear dependent. You get into the situation where there are a lot of very strong setups you can do. You have the whole trapper gloves, you get into stuff like cloak of defiance. You then get the whole divergent berserk thing, which if you're not doing trapper gloves, you then want to be doing eldritch battery stuff. They're weird. They're like incredibly league start friendly. How much mana is that? 132 mana. I mean, at that point, you probably just come into Ranger, pick up Druidic Rite. 165 life, 178 mana, acro phase acro, 1, 2, 3 jewels. That looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me. You could trim some points for sure. Doesn't have the frenzy charges, which kind of sucks. You could maybe then trim off these two. These two aren't that great. And if you're doing just the mind over matter acro phase acro thing, you're not like that like you're not. With the mom agnostic thing, you want as much mana as possible. You go crazy on the mana, you try and shove RF into the build, and it's all about scaling like Arcane Cloak and stuff for raw damage. With the mom version, it's like you're just adding mom to the build, a little bit of extra defense. You could maybe change the routing. $96, shove a jewel in. 98. You can maybe like shove Arcane Will in. Lose a little bit of damage. Makes a little bit tankier. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, sorry. 4. Yeah, I can count. Yeah, maybe you do something sort of like that. Maybe shove in Arcane Will. And, like, I don't know. I don't know. Something sort of like that, maybe. But, yeah. I don't think Explosive Trap will ever get uncrowned. It's just too good mechanically. Another nice thing about 3.14, alongside the confirmed trap reworks, which are definitely going to happen and definitely won't not happen, we're seeing the lab changes, which means that you can now fish for Helm enchants, which means that the prospect of actually farming for SSF Helm enchants seems kind of doable. Which is another big draw for playing stuff like Explosive Trap in SSF or just in a non-SSF environment. Expect to see more of the good Helm enchants on the market. But yeah, I don't know if that was actually a helpful video. Very much looking forward to the 100% confirmed, definitely going to happen trap rework, by the way. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.